Okay, our third speaker this morning, very pleased to introduce Dr. Hazell Thompson. Hazell has worked for about 25 years in conservation research and NGO capacity building. He was before he moved from his native Sierra Leone, he'd already had some fantastic achievements through the helping to establish the first conservation biology course in the country, and also doing some very informative research on one of those really charismatic West African species, the white-necked picopartes. For the last 20 years or so, Hazell has worked very closely with BirdLife International, initially running a big cross-Africa global partnership project through GF funding. He then spent about 10 years as the regional director for Africa based in Nairobi. And now he's the director for BirdLife's program on capacity partnerships and communities. So really heading up the team which helps the development of capacity building of 117 NGOs around the world. So very pleased that Hazell was able to come along today, and he's going to talk about some of the experience from that 2 decades of developing bird and conservation capacity with NGOs in Africa. Thank you very much, Hazell.
Just get it wrong. Sorry, something's gone wrong there. Yeah. Okay, and there is a light there as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Paul. I'm delighted to be here, and thanks to the African Bird Club for inviting me. I realize I'm the only one between you and the lunch break, so I'll make sure I don't keep you. But essentially what I'm going to do is tell you about the human side of how we try to do bird conservation in Africa using BirdLife International, who I work for. As an example, I then take what I call a short foray out into looking at what's happening elsewhere outside BirdLife. That's not comprehensive in any way. That's just to make sure that it's not all focused on BirdLife International. I then try to look a little bit into the future and end up with a few reflections and call them recommendations if you like, but they are more like random thoughts on a train coming down. But that's where I'd really like, in fact, your input as well, because this is something we can all work on together. So without further delay, Paul has taken care of that. I wanted to just briefly go through my credentials, but at the base there was when we opened the BirdLife International Africa Secretariat in Nairobi, the first time that BirdLife was having a secretariat presence on the continent. And that lady there is the late winner of the Nobel Peace Prize. Now, who can remember her name? Wangari Maathai. So she won the Nobel Peace Prize. She's now left us, but she opened the office for us there, and that brought a lot of political attention at that time to the office. You know about BirdLife. I won't go much into this, but I put these slides up to show you the basis of the principles by which we do capacity development. That each partner in BirdLife is BirdLife within their respective countries, and that in BirdLife, we try to use science to underpin all our work. It's a network of independent organizations, and we work across priorities that are common to the organizations. And there's some numbers there which show you the breadth of the network. Coming down to Africa, that shows you the spread of what we call the BirdLife partners in Africa. And mainly you can see West Africa from east to southern and across North Africa. In the Sahel, not so much presence as well. In Central Africa, not so much presence as well. We'll come to some of that later, but I wanted to show you that the extent of the spread. So diving a little bit into what we mean by capacity development to set the scene. And that's a UNDP definition where you look at the ability of individuals, institutions, and societies to perform functions, solve problems, and set and achieve objectives in a sustainable manner. There are some keywords there. Sustainable is one, and the fact that you go through several systems from individuals to societies. And coming to the right-hand side, I think the key point there is enabling frameworks, effective organizations, as well as individual skills and knowledge. Very often, we think about capacity development just by the last bit of those definitions. I think it should be obvious. I'll just make why we carry out capacity development. At BirdLife, we think it's the only way to ensure tangible, long-term, and sustainable impact. We all know about the sayings about giving someone fish or teaching someone to fish. Which one is the better thing to do? And in BirdLife, this is the philosophy of having sustainable impact. So I want to take you a little bit behind the scenes of how we do or try to do this capacity development. And I'm not sure if this is going to run, but let's hope it does. But this is just to show you one of the reasons why we should be carrying out capacity development.
I am misunderstood. I am the bringer of life, not the taker. I am the cleaner of your world. I am the halter of disease, the sentinel of your skies. For centuries, I was revered, for I am vital. But now I am persecuted. I am disappearing because I am misunderstood. You are the most powerful species on this planet. Use your power to change. Use your power to act.
I thought that would be sort of an example of why we should be trying to develop capacity for bird and biodiversity conservation across Africa. You saw the figures there, vulture declines by more than 98% across Africa. This has almost crept up on us, even though it's been happening over the past 3 decades or so. We need a whole variety of mechanisms to stop and reverse that, from governments to organizations to individuals. And unless it comes from within, it's not going to happen. Within the continent of Africa itself, within the national institutions, within the countries themselves, which is why this capacity development approach is absolutely necessary. And that also exemplifies that for that, you're going to need science, you're going to need policy, you're going to need communications, and of course, you're going to need the hard field work that people put in that some of our previous speakers have spoken about. So no more need to go more into the rationale for capacity development. I think it's fairly self-evident the links between people's livelihoods and conservation is also self-evident. This I put up as well because the links between beliefs, what is now called fake news, and how people react to different things also makes a significant difference. And we have to tackle all of those. But I'll quickly go behind the scenes and show you some of how we try to tackle some of these issues from the capacity development angle. So that's the model. Working with national organizations, working with wildlife partners, looking at 3 areas: stability and good governance, so that the organization becomes more or less self-perpetuating, sustainability and good management, such that the organization has a means of sustaining itself, and of course, all of that leading into conservation impact. This is an example of some of the indicators you might set, organizations might set for themselves nationally, or the partnership might set at a regional level, or might be set within the context of a particular program. You may want to have some more protected areas under permanent protection. You would want to improve the conservation status of globally threatened birds. You may want to take some action to influence laws, policy and laws. You may want to have evidence that at least you're having impact at the site level. Now, does all this work? Let's see. But before we do that, let's take a look at how we try to influence all those levels through the BirdLife network. This is a complicated drawing, but I would just want to highlight a few things. The BirdLife Partnership network of 25 countries, NGOs in Africa working together, supported by a secretariat, which at this point has a presence in Nairobi, as well as in Accra, Ghana, as well as in Senegal, in Dakar, as well as in Rwanda, Kigali, but supporting these 25 countries. Partner-to-partner support. The BirdLife network is international. You have, for example, the partner here in the UK, the RSPB, playing quite a significant role in working with other partners in Africa and in other parts of the world as well. But also you have some partners, for example, now in South Africa, working with the countries around them, the other partners around them. I wanted to bring that out. Also the fact that the network of organizations, they meet regularly and they look at what the goals are and how they're getting there. The only other thing to point out is this, which I'll say a little bit more about. You have dedicated partner development staff, not only from a secretariat, but also, as we've said, from supporting partners and other partners helping each other. That's just a list to show you how it actually works in practice. You might, some of the people are actually here, in fact. So let's see. There is Wensi, who works for the RSPB. He works with the National Conservation Foundation in Nigeria. That's Wensi again. That's Julius from Nairobi. That's Danielle from our partner in the Netherlands, who works with our partner in Burkina Faso, Naturama. The whole idea is to have a network of support for organizations. And we call these our partner development officers. Chris, I know, was one of them as well at some point. So does the model work? That is, you strengthen an organization, you work with the organization, it becomes self-sustaining, and it has impact on the ground. You could argue that yes, it does, this is a shot of the Gola Forest. Gola Forest, as it were, extends between my native Sierra Leone and Liberia, and the transboundary peace park has been established. This is a huge success in that area. You can say species like the white-necked picatatis are safer for that. You might even say that if we had the Icterine green bull, and we do in the Gola Forest, it's safer for that. So at a site level, you can certainly look at key examples of where partners are having quite an impact. And that's the Seychelles warbler, and everybody knows, well, many people know the story of from 26 individuals in the 60s to more than 3,000 individuals now through the work of several individuals and institutions, but Nature's Seychelles, the wildlife partner in Seychelles, has been quite critical in supporting this work. And this is just a shot of lesser flamingos on Lake Natron, where we had a big battle in the early 2000s that it was going to be destroyed with a soda ash factory being built on the shores of the lake, which would have destroyed the only breeding site for the species in East Africa. So certainly key successes on the ground. But what happens to the organizations themselves? I just picked up a couple of case studies. This is a city, Madagascar, which has actually been a national organization for quite a while, but BirdLife opened an international office there and then merged the two, which is now the reformed City Madagascar. So it merged with the BirdLife Country Program in 2008, and that's Voni who leads the organization. And just to show you what's happened to City Madagascar, from around 2000 to 2020, you can see how its number of staff has increased. Since about 2005 as well, membership, because this is one of the criteria of BirdLife, that the organization should have a constituency where it's working. You can see that that has grown sevenfold. You can see that the budget has almost gone through the roof. And a lot of that happened between 2005 and 2010. We have not yet really delved into all the reasons for that. You'll see in another set of slides as well. But we think as well the support system was actually kicking into action around this period. Another case study, Nature Uganda, again, partners working together, the RSPB and Chris and others have worked together with Achilles for quite a long time, and look at what we see has happened. Similar things with the staff numbers. Sorry, that's gone off the staff numbers. They started off with just 2 people in a single room at Makerere University, and now they have staff all over the country and are able to influence national policy and conservation. Similarly, membership started from nothing, and it's not yet through the roof, but having 3,500 members is quite significant. And again, income has grown 5-fold. So it would seem as if the model is working. It's not only that these organizations are growing in the way they do business, but if you look at Nature Uganda, for example, it was probably almost single-handedly responsible for preventing destruction of Mabera Forest. Some people might remember that, just not far from Kampala with sugar factory. So a lot of impact on the ground. City Madagascar as well has carried out work that has resulted in actually protected area status for key forests in the country. But I wanted to point out that we've had and we're having a cadre of conservation leaders in Africa who are working with these organizations, who are leading these organizations through. Fish mentioned SCNL in Liberia, and that's Michael Gabo, and this is Julius, who leads the Africa Secretariat from Nairobi, Hishem in Tunisia, Gertrude in Badwatch, Zambia, and Tiwonge in Malawi. A mix of established leaders as well as younger leaders coming through. And for us, we feel this is key, having a critical mass of conservation leaders in the continent working together. And going through this, actually, I came upon several of these individuals. It's a bit of a morbid slide because we lost all of them between 2000 and 2015, and almost all in the line of conservation duty in Africa. So it shows, A, that the organizations are still thriving without these people, but that we need young people coming through as well to replace those that we are losing. Does the model always work? No. Things that go wrong most often: governance, the board or the trustees meddling with the staff or just not doing their duty. Finances is always an issue. To develop a constituency that cares for conservation when there are much more pressing issues, apparently superficially, that is why you have to have a very good communications message, or you will not have people supporting you. We found strategic planning is often a weakness. So organizations dive into stuff and they start doing stuff without really deciding where they want to go to and how they get there. This is a geographical description of where things have not worked or using this particular model or will not work. Tanzania, the organization we had there more or less had to leave because of some of these issues we're talking about here. In DRC, that's the size of a continent, and the issue is getting organizations working together at the national level across the whole country. In Cameroon, some people might be surprised to see it there because we have one of the foremost ornithologists in Africa, in Cameroon. But the key thing about this model is it's about strong organizations, not individuals. And here, precisely because some of the individuals maybe are even too strong for the organizations have not grown as much as they should. But who else is carrying out capacity development? That's it for BirdLife. These are just some thoughts here, but of course universities, and you've had some of the work being done there. Not only in Africa, I've just put a few examples there, but Western universities as well. I've just put a few examples there. We looked at what happens in the universities in Africa, a sample of the 15 that are at the top of the rankings, and about half of them offered degrees in conservation, ecology, or birds. Is this something to look at? NGOs, of course, national ones, as we've been discussing within BirdLife, and international ones, including the BirdLife supporting partners. I then just took a quick look at some of the research institutions, and that's a who's who of some of the ornithological research institutions, not exhaustive, of course. And of course, we have some very familiar names here on this list, from Aploy to African Bird Club, Percy Fitzpatrick, West African Ornithological Society, etc. again, I'm always keen, or I'm always banging on about critical mass, but Aplory, you can see, is developing that. These are some of the students that have graduated from Aplory and who are now in quite influential positions right across the continent. And interestingly, there is cross-fertilization between the institutions. Ademola graduated from Aplory. He now works for BirdLife International. He formerly worked for the Nigerian Conservation Foundation in Nigeria. And that's the kind of thing we would want to encourage. Of course, Aplory has been recognized for its contribution to conservation in Africa. Then we took a quick look at, well, if we're developing all this capacity, what's happening to research, what's happening to publications. And this is a quick analysis of ostrich. And unsurprisingly, of course, lead author country, South Africa has dominated, but you can see also UK there. You can see several Western countries in the pie charts. And here, we looked at which countries or programs were contributing to a range of journals across the continent. Now, again, you can see South Africa tends to dominate, but quite a range of countries coming through as well. So I'd like to look at this again in another 5 years or 10 years or so, and saying, well, with the capacity development mechanisms that are going in, what's happening? Is it actually feeding through to research, to publications, etc.? So a quick look now at the future. There are lots of things going on already which sort of look towards the future. And there's lots of youth programs across the continent, conservation leadership program, young conservation leaders. We've mentioned the interactions between different partners. And very, very quickly, many of you would know about the Conservation Leadership Program, which is an interaction between BirdLife International, Fauna and Flora International, Wildlife Conservation Society, WCS, funded by BP. And this is a model which we are trying to replicate, propagate in other ways right across the continent. Developing young professionals or mid-career professionals, providing opportunities, leading to an increase in confidence, credibility, commitment, and then therefore supporting other people. And this one I thought I would highlight. It's not the only young conservation leadership program, but the Bird Fair here in the UK gives a proportion of the takings, almost all of its takings, to BirdLife International to support projects across Africa. And what they've now done is that they've put in a young conservation leadership component into that, such that the funding from every bird fair will have a third of the funds going to young conservation leaders. And this is just some of the people who have won, or the group that has won the first tranche of programs. As I've said, this is not exhaustive. You're going to hear from other people. You do know of other programs, etc., going on. But just to take a quick look across the spectrum, to sort of come towards the end, what are some of the challenges to this model? It doesn't always work. Do we retain always the best and the brightest? To some extent, we think we do, but not always. In some countries, the economic and policy environment is unfavorable. The loss of biodiversity continues. Pressure on natural habitats is increasing. Globally, we see environmental responsibility being rolled back right across the world. We see judgments being made that are not based on science. We see the space for civil society narrowing again right across the world. We see the rise of nationalism and populism, and this is affecting the way people think and work together. And of course, funding is always there. These are a lot of the issues we're going to need to tackle. I've just put down a few thoughts here, and it would be good to get your thoughts as well. But for us, we think for capacity development, for the work we're doing, as a group of conservationists, we have to make the science undeniable. We have to strengthen civil society. We have to focus on youth. We have to encourage innovative thinking. Fundraising has to be there. I've put it aggressive, but it has to be creative, much more than aggressive. And we have to look at self-funded schemes. We need to promote opportunities to new audiences, not just the usual suspects. This is now possible through social media. Are we using this enough? I spoke to quite a number of young people who were at the Cambridge Science Conference last week, and they said one of the key things that really helped them is to get paid internships once they are stepping into the field. And we should make that available to a wider base of young people. I thought, what are some of the things we are not doing, which we should be doing? It would be really great to be able to go into a database and find out who has the skills in Africa on what, right across the world. And I've put down some other thoughts there. Are we making the best use of ecotourism? Are we making the best use of funded visits? Are we making the best use of conservation of birders going to Africa or from within Africa and linking them up with young people? Are we making the links with mentoring and coaching, etc.? And we need more joined up international work between the international organizations. This is an example of Nature Seychelles. They've just launched their new conservation boot camp, which is a training as well as it's an experience. It could be a holiday experience as well. And that's the sort of thing, to pull in new audiences, give them new experiences, whilst at the same time contributing to conservation. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Hazell. It's a wonderful run through of a huge subject, but some really good food for thought there and about how organisations like the African Bird Club could perhaps help with some of those challenges that we face. We're a bit short of time, but it would be, I'd love to offer at least 2 or 3 questions quickly.
Hi, Hazell. Your business model you showed quite early on involving NGOs, and you showed a map of Africa with various places shaded in. I've recently been to Angola. There's an NGO there. I think, from what I saw, it looked like an ideal partner for you, but I was told the reason you will not partner with them is because they don't have, say, a paid-up membership. You know, they're just an NGO. Surely that, if you keep that business model as strict as that, you're going to miss out on opportunities in countries where there are very strong needs for conservation and working with people like BirdLife.
Yes. No, this point has been made to us. The reason we insist on membership, and we're making it clear that it can be nominal payment, in fact. It's not because of money. It's because of the governance. The organization has to be accountable to a constituency within the country. It cannot be simply a small group of researchers in a room. It cannot be simply a small group of field biologists. They have to have linkages with the constituency. That's why we insist on it, because we feel that the whole whole of BirdLife could be not only infiltrated, but you could actually have a whole set of organizations that do not meet those criteria, and they also then collapse. They don't only sometimes collapse quite quickly, but because they're not accountable, they can do things which then poses a reputational risk to the rest of the partnership. So it's a matter of governance, and we're keeping it very, 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 we're being very strict about it.
I think it's a mistake.
Well,
lady at the source back there.
I like your approach of teaching people to fish. My only concern is that there's an assumption that they don't know how to fish. Maybe they do it in a different way. Anyway, my question is, does your model based on traditional ecological knowledge, because not all of them are detrimental? Okay. So does your model really build on traditional ecological knowledge and beliefs? Because, of course, some are detrimental, like for owls and vultures, but others are really beneficial and have seen many birds being conserved for centuries. So
no, absolutely, which is why a BirdLife partner has to be a national NGO. It has to be an organization that has roots in its communities, and it has to be an organization that therefore then uses the knowledge that it has within the country, including traditional knowledge, bring it to bear on the conservation issues. So absolutely, I completely agree with that. And we do in BirdLife as well. Yeah.
Thank you. Just maybe Richard, this gentleman here.
You mentioned that the Tanzania does not fit with your model and is not working, and I found this surprising. Could you elaborate a little bit as to what's not working, and also what BirdLife can do to try and make it work?
Yes, on the issue of elaborating, we did have a partner in Tanzania, as maybe you might know, for a long time, and we did fantastic work, including one of the slides I showed on preventing the destruction of Lake Natron. But personnel changed, plus again coming to the linkages with the community, with the national constituency, we found out we came to a point where the way in which the organization was operating, it was no longer independent of government. And that is another criterion for BirdLife partner, because you have to be able to stand up to government. Plus, there were various process issues, including accounting issues, et cetera, which meant that that organization, we felt, could no longer be part of BirdLife. We parted company more or less mutually, but we have a country office in Tanzania that is a project office, as it were, and we're working with Tanzanians to see if another organization might come into the partnership. So that's in the pipeline.
Thank you. I think I'm going to have to call a halt there. We are starting to eat into our lunch break. Thank you very much, Hazell, for a great talk. Thanks to all our speakers this morning. We will be coming back at 1:45 for the ABC annual general meeting. So I hope you will all come in for that. If for any reason you don't want to come to that, but I'm sure you do, then we will be kicking off the afternoon speech talks at 2:30. So, but thank you very much, Hazell.